I drank most of the container that's on the table in the kitchen yesterday morning.
All right, so we're going to do some more product training. We're going to talk about adrenals. And the adrenal glands are little walnut-sized glands that sit right on top of your kidneys. That's where adrenaline comes from. Adrenal actually means on top of kidneys, is what it means in Latin. So the adrenals sit on top of the kidneys. They're very important because they produce more hormones than any other gland in the human body. So that's where adrenaline comes from, epinephrine, norepinephrine, corticosteroids, which are natural steroids to help you handle inflammatory responses. That's where the whole fight or flight response comes from. So cortisol production, which you hear a lot related to stress. People, when they're overly stressed, they release too much cortisol, which can cause anxiety and also cause like weight gain around the middle. It can be tied to adrenal issues. So I've done lots of recordings on adrenals. I'd really encourage you guys to listen to the CD series I did on adrenals because it's a couple hours long. I think Jill's listened to it. And I'll go into a lot of detail there about how important the adrenals are and the different functions that they serve and the different nutrients you need for the adrenals. But people are going to come in with adrenal fatigue. People know about adrenal fatigue. And they know a lot of times when they're tired, this is an area they're going to come to a lot because thyroid adrenals are both really linked to low energy levels. So a couple of things you want to look for people that are coming in. If they know about the adrenals, great, we can lead them to this area. If they're just having certain symptoms that you're kind of picking up on that might be related to adrenal fatigue, this would be a good place to start, especially when it comes to energy. So tired, lethargic. A big one is foggy thinking. Can't focus, can't concentrate, memory's not good. That's often adrenals. And so children, for example, that have been told they have behavioral issues or the ADD, ADHD thing going on, I always give them something for the adrenals. We actually have a product called Adrenal and Focus Blend. And children who aren't focusing well, or even adults, they take this product and their brain fog clears up. They start to think better. They start to make decisions better. They start to think more clearly. So that can, there's really a link there between focus, concentration, memory, and the adrenals. But a big one is fatigue. A lot of people are tired and wiped out. So how do the adrenals get tired? Stress and anxiety is a big one. So you're super stressed out all the time. Your adrenals are always having to pump out all these hormones to handle that stress response. That depletes the body. Another thing that really depletes the body is stimulants. So a lot of people in our culture kind of function off of caffeine and or sugar. So if you're going all day and you're doing coffee, and you're tired in the afternoon, so you hit the double Starbucks latte thing, whatever, or you're doing a lot of sugar, just as quick fixes all the time, and you're not getting a lot of nutrition, that can keep you going. I always equate it to like a horse. Like horses are loyal animals. You can get on them and they'll run forever until when? They collapse because they're loyal animals. Well, your body's pretty loyal the way God designed you. And you can live on caffeine and Monster energy drinks and coffee until your body collapses. And people do that. And when the body collapses, it's usually because the adrenals have just been toasted out. So there's a couple of things for strengthening the adrenals that we're going to talk about first that I think are just as important, if not more important, than any supplement you're going to buy on a shelf. One is sea salt and water. The adrenals run on salt, and they are critical for managing the electrolyte balance in your body along with your kidneys. So that kidney adrenal area, it's critical that they have sea salt. Sea salt, believe it or not, is one of the most common deficiencies in America. And that's because everybody eats table salt, because if you eat at a restaurant, you eat fast food, you eat packaged food, you get table salt because it's cheap and the companies don't care about quality. So everybody uses table salt, which is toxic to the human body. So quality sea salt from the earth, your body needs, but specifically your adrenals. I've had multiple people come in with brain fog, can't think, dehydration issues. I haven't put sea salt in their water in 1 week, the brain fog clears up. I've seen it that dramatic, just sea salt in the water. So the adrenals run on salt and water. So give them a good sea salt, in the mineral section, and add sea salt to their water. Anybody's a runner, an athlete, a construction worker, a marathon runner, they have oftentimes tired adrenals, especially runners. If they love to run and they've been doing it for years and years, but they haven't properly replenished their body, rehydrated their body, it burns out their adrenals over time. I've seen that multiple times in people too. So salt in the water is a great tool. Another thing that's really important for adrenals and hormones in general is sunshine. And it's actually, I go in detail about this on the recording, but it's sunshine actually hitting the eyeballs. That's what actually stimulates the cascade of hormones that makes everything work in your body. So for serotonin to be produced, for melatonin to be produced so that you go to sleep, for dopamine response, fertility hormones to be activated, all happens by sunshine hitting our eyes. My favorite scripture for that is Ecclesiastes 11:7. Truly the light is sweet, and it is special for the eyes to behold the sun. So it's really important for our eyes to get sunshine, and that stimulates adrenal function. You think of all the fertility issues we have, all those fertility hormones are actually stimulated and governed by light cycles. And so when you're inside all the time under fake man-made lights, it messes up your hormones, it messes up your light cycle, and it can lead to problems. Whereas sunshine, God's creations, do the opposite. They promote life. So really important for adrenal function is sunshine in the eyes. There's something called the hypothalamic pituitary axis. You don't got to worry about all that. But it basically is this sunshine getting in the eyes, hitting the pineal gland, stimulating the other glands to produce hormones that has a direct link to the adrenals, which gives us strength, energy, stamina, endurance. Greek, Romans, they knew this. They would actually exercise and train outside in the sun, on the beach, oftentimes naked, or wearing as little clothing as possible, because they knew how important the sunshine was for their strength and their vitality and their vigor. So moving on to nutrients specific to the adrenals, there's a few things that the adrenals really, really need. Vitamin C is one. Vitamin C is used by the adrenals more than any other gland in the human body. So if your adrenals are wiped out, we all know how important vitamin C is for the immune system. So a lot of times people have adrenal fatigue, they have a weak immune system, they get sick all the time. They have a deficiency in vitamin C. They don't even have enough for the adrenals, they don't have enough for their immune system. To tell you how ancient cultures knew about vitamin C, they didn't know about vitamin C, they didn't know what vitamin C was. Native Americans, you think they knew what vitamin C was? But people were coming over on boats, the settlers, and they were getting scurvy where they were bleeding out of the gums. And what the Native Americans knew to eat so that they didn't get this disease is they actually ate the adrenal glands of animals. So when they'd catch a moose or a bear or something like that, they knew to eat the adrenal glands because it would provide certain nutrients to them to keep them from getting certain diseases. And that's because the adrenals store vitamin C. And so vitamin C is actually in the vitamin section, but that's really critical to adrenal function, and it's in a lot of the formulas. Pantothenic acid is a B vitamin. It's vitamin B5. So pantothenic acid is needed by the adrenals too. That's in red meat, that's in liver, that's in bee pollen and royal jelly, which we have royal jelly right here. So that's really important for the adrenals. I mentioned the minerals. Sea salts, magnesium, also really important for the adrenal glands. So those are some of the main nutrients that the adrenals need. So when we talk about different products, I'll just show you a couple of my favorites. I probably use this adrenal fatigue fighter more than anything. This is for people who are wiped out of their adrenals and they just need more energy and they just want to feel better. This can be immediate. I usually have people take this in the morning and in the afternoon, not necessarily the evening. A lot of times with people with adrenal fatigue, just need something to help get them through the day. Because a lot of times they get that afternoon crash. I feel pretty good in the morning. Reason is because at night when you sleep, if you get a good night's sleep, your body kind of resets itself. It's kind of like a battery. You get a good night's sleep and that adrenaline is like, it goes back up. And then as you start your day, it starts to deplete. But for some people with adrenal fatigue, they get up in the morning and it drops real fast. By noon, 1 o'clock, they need a Starbucks, they need a nap, they need a cookie, they need a fix because of the adrenal issues. So this will help combat that, the adrenal fatigue fighter. If we look what's in it, it's B vitamins. It's going to have the pantothenic acid in it. It's got Chinese tonic herbs, amazing for the adrenals. Some of the best way you can help somebody long-term with their adrenals is give them Chinese tonic herbs. So what are Chinese tonic herbs? Ashwagandha, astragalus, holy basil, schisandra berries, rhodiola, ginseng, deer antler. Okay, I could name more, and we'll do more training on Chinese herbs later. They're not Chinese herbs, they're God's herbs, but the Chinese use them, so we call them Chinese herbs. That makes sense, right? So this one has the Eleuthero, Asian ginseng, Schisandra, suma root, which is another one, and it has astragalus. And then it has some holy basil in it, which is one of my favorites. So this is a nice blend of B vitamins along with some of those Chinese herbs, which is why this works. It's one of my favorite formulas. This Adrenal we use a lot and we sell a lot too. What's different from this is this has glandulars. We remember talking about glandulars when we talked about thyroids. It's actually tissue from an animal. So the Adrenal, the raw adrenal, this is actually a glandular. This is really good for people who need to build their adrenals because they're totally wiped out and they need to strengthen their adrenals. The glandulars work good for that. The adrenal fatigue fighter is more B vitamins, quick energy, the herbs that kind of help with adapting and dealing with stress and anxiety. This is something people can take every day to help them. It's not necessarily going to totally rebuild their adrenal glands. Does that make sense? Whereas a lot of times a formula with the glandular can more actually build the adrenal glands over time. So I use both. The Adreno Power by North American Herb and Spice, the Royal Power, the Royal Oil, these are all North American Herb and Spice. The key ingredient in every one of these is royal jelly. Royal jelly is one of the most nutrient-dense substances found on the planet. They can't even figure out by a chemical analysis what's all in it because there's thousands of different things in royal jelly.
Where is it? Oh, yeah.
Royal jelly comes from bees.
Bees.
Yeah. Can somebody grab the door real quick, please? So royal jelly comes from bees. So all bee products are really good for the adrenals, and they're very high in nutrients and specifically very good and very high in B vitamins. So bees make various different products. One of the products is honey, of course. That's the main food. The royal jelly is actually what they feed the queen bee. So they have these little pockets in their saliva glands, and they actually store certain parts of plants, nectars and pollens and things. They actually store it, and it's broken down by different enzymes, and I don't know how long it takes, but this isn't honey. This is something they actually deposit in a different place specifically for the queen bee. So it's a much more nutrient-dense substance, and it's much more higher in nutrients than just honey. And what's really cool about royal jelly is if they feed royal jelly, like let's say the queen dies in the hive, the queen gets killed or the queen dies, they can actually feed royal jelly to any of the bees and it will turn into the queen. Now is that crazy? That shows how nutrient dense royal jelly is. And royal jelly is loaded with hormonal components. This was like the key food for ancient cultures, especially women, for beauty. They would use it for everything. They would eat it, they'd put it on their face. Hormonal components, unbelievable. I mean, imagine laying thousands of eggs every day. You need hormones. So that's what the queen bee does. So incredibly high nutrients, hormone balancing, beauty, used all throughout ancient history for that purpose. The Adrenal and Focus blend, definitely one of my favorite products. It's cedar bear. It's amazing. And the reason this actually used to just be called Focus H. The reason it worked is because it was an adrenal formula. And because remember I mentioned that the link between the adrenals and focus and attention. So these herbs are all adrenal related herbs. It's going to have some of those tonic herbs we talked about. It's got rhodiola in it. It's got the eleuthero in it. It's got astragalus in it. But it also has ginkgo for circulation, and it also has wood betony. So this is a really good formula. This is the dropper under the tongue. Cedar bear, again, super high quality, vegetable glycerin base, so it's going to taste good. There's a children's formula that's actually the same formula as the adults because they work for both. Yep. So that's another really good product. And this one, just a couple droppers under the tongue twice a day. So like a couple droppers in the morning, couple droppers in the afternoon will help people get through the day, not feel fatigued, not feel tired. So this is going to kind of work similar to this one. This one's just herbal. The cedar bear one is just herbal. The adrenal fatigue fighter, it's going to have the B vitamins and some of the other components. So they're both going to work. They're both going to help. Again, sometimes it's personal preference. Do people want to take capsules? Do people want to take liquid? I like the liquids because they seem to work fast, because under the tongue, hit the bloodstream, hit the adrenals, away you go. Just like you go outside, you're in the sun, oh my gosh, I feel amazing, I feel energized, I feel alive, because the sun provides that type of life. So moving on down here, we have probably my favorite herb for the adrenals, and that's holy basil. Holy basil is awesome. It's been used forever in Ayurvedic medicine over in India, and it is very calming and relaxing. So you have that person that comes in super stressed, super anxious, crazy things going on in their life, jobs out of control, just can't handle it, can't deal with it. I always, always, always default to holy basil. Story I always love to tell people is when I worked in Las Vegas at a health food store, I had a lady come in who I knew, who I'd worked with. Her son was just killed in a car accident. So talk about trauma. And she goes, is there anything I can take that can just help me survive, not feeling like I'm going to go lose it? And I knew about holy basil, and I gave her holy basil. And I didn't hear from her, and she came back in a month later. I hadn't seen her, heard from her. She came in a month later, walked in the door, came straight up to me, gave me a hug, and said, that saved my life. So holy basil can have a very dramatic effect on the human body. What I always tell people is this works, period, for every person. So in other words, if you take it and you don't feel anything, you need more. Seriously, because it calms and relaxes the nervous system. And the way I explain holy basil is it just makes you feel, I can do this. I can handle this. You're yelling at me, that's more your issue than my issue. That kind of gives you that kind of sense of calm. But it doesn't make you tired. And that's another cool thing about holy basil. It makes you feel calm and relaxed and balanced and feel good, but not droopy and drowsy. If you want to feel droopy and drowsy, we have other stuff for that in the sleep section. Okay, but not in the adrenal section, because you want the adrenals to be, you want to still have your endurance and stamina and be able to do your daily functions. So I'm going to move, so we're kind of in the stress anxiety area, which is kind of linked to adrenals. Anxiety-free, #1 selling formula for us for stress and anxiety from Ridgecrest. Ridgecrest has a lot of products. We sell more of this than anything else from that company because this works. People swear by it. I have guys that come in, once a month, give me my anxiety free. He's out the door. Next month, just because it works. And so stress, anxiety, this is going to have the holy basil in it, but same thing, it's got B vitamins in it, but it's got calming things to help with calming neurotransmitters like GABA and L-theanine, which is in a lot of sleep formulas. L-theanine it's an amino acid. It's also got more calming herbs. So whereas the adrenal fatigue fighter has more like balancing, strengthening tonic herbs, this one has more calming herbs. So lemon balm, very good for calming and relaxing the body. Passion flower, known for that. And lavender. A lot of people know about lavender, use lavender essential oil, know it's a very calming herb. So those are the herbs that are in the anxiety-free along with the B vitamins. So this is a great, great formula. I also like the Bach's flower essences. A lot of people know about these. So Bach's Rescue Remedy, it's been around forever. This is one of the oldest health supplements, I think, probably in existence. This is flower essences. Just to tell you real quick about Bach, his story is fascinating. I just love to just kind of give you guys these little tidbits because it's kind of fun. He was a medical doctor in London, and he was very I don't know what the word would be. He wasn't overly thrilled with what was happening in the medical community. And this was back in like the late 1800s. And he wasn't happy with the way medicine was going. And so he actually quit his practice and he went to go out and live in the woods in England. He went and lived in the woods. He survived off of food in the woods and lived in the woods, no contact with human beings, as far as I understand from the story. He became so sensitive to plants that he would literally take the leaf of a plant, put it on his tongue, and it would stimulate an emotion. So he'd take one plant, put it on his tongue, he would cry. He would take another plant, put it on his tongue, he would get angry. He would take another plant and put it on his tongue, and he would feel irritable or whatever. all of these different emotions. And so what he found is that these plants would heal these emotional issues in people. So if somebody was angry, they would take, it's that, again, that concept of like cures like. That's like homeopathy. They would take the essence of this flower in and he would dilute them in alcohol, and he'd make almost like a tincture out of these flower essences and alcohol, and people would take little drops of this, and they had anger, their anger would go away. Or they were emotional, they would take it and it would balance them out. And so Bach learned all this just through his experience in the woods. And again, that makes sense to us because we believe in God and we believe he made everything for a purpose. And we know the Native Americans understood plants and when to harvest them, and they actually communicated with the plants. And Bach became so sensitive by living in nature that he actually was able to experience this. So it's really neat. So this is a blend of different flower essences that calm and relax the body. This is instantaneous for people. I have seen people in shock, trauma, major issues take this and immediately feel calm and relaxed. They actually have a pet rescue remedy. So pets who are the fireworks on 4th of July, the vet, they just freak out every time they go to the vet. People will give this type of formula to their pet to help them, but it'll also work for people, of course. So if you're scared of fireworks on the 4th of July, this might work for you. So this has rock rose, clematis, impatiens, cherry plum, and star of Bethlehem. These are flowers. These are flowers found in nature that these are the essences. We call them flower essences. It's basically like you take the flower, put it in some kind of a medium, the flower extracts into that liquid medium, and you take it. Just like almost like a tincture or almost like a homeopathic product. So then we have a couple of Chinese formulas specific. We have a ginseng formula. This is a blend of different ginsengs. This has Panax ginseng. This has Korean white ginseng, Korean red. This has American ginseng. Did you know there were so many types of ginseng? I didn't either. There's red jujube in here, wild American ginseng, wild Siberian ginseng, and something I've never heard of, wild Shungbai mountain root. So cool stuff. I love the Chinese formulas. So this is going to be more of strength, endurance, stamina. There's a lot of these kind of products in the sport athlete section because athletes have to have strong adrenals. For strength, stamina, endurance, you have to have strong adrenal function. And because we have to produce adrenaline, we got to go when we got to go. It's the whole fight or flight. It's time to go, it's time to move, it's time to make a play, whatever. You got to have strong adrenals. So a lot of athletes take Chinese herbs. A lot of athletes know about ginseng and rhodiola and Hisho Wu, and the Russians were taking a lot of herbs in the 80s when they were dominating the Olympics, and they were getting tested and tested and tested and tested because for sure they're taking some illegal drug. They weren't taking an illegal drug, they were taking herbs because they really have that dramatic of an effect on the body. Deer antler, probably one of the best known things for the adrenals. We have it in the men's section, we have it in the sports section. We actually should have it in the adrenal section. So let's put deer antler in the adrenal section because it's probably the most powerful single tonic herb for the adrenals is deer antler. It'll help with strength, stamina, endurance. I had Kansas City Chiefs players all the time that would come in and buy deer antler. A lot of athletes take deer antler. It was controversial for a while in the NFL because it increased stamina and endurance, but it was not illegal. It would never show up in a blood test. It wasn't a man-made substance. God has given us things that can really strengthen our bodies. So this great adapter formula is a blend of what we call adaptogenic herbs. Adaptogenic herbs help your body adapt and handle daily life. You need more energy? It's going to give you more energy. You need to calm down and relax? The same plants will help you calm down and relax, and it'll help boost your energy and your mood. That's what's cool about adaptogenic herbs. So this is rhodiola, astragalus, reishi mushroom we've talked about in the past, and American ginseng and schisandra berries. So that's all in this great adapter formula. One of my favorite herbs for the adrenals as well is Rehmannia. Okay, this is a new one to me. I didn't know a lot about Rehmannia, but a lot of athletes take Rehmannia. This one's called Rehmannia 6. It has prepared Rehmannia and some other herbs that I can't really pronounce. But it's called Romania 6, and this is great, same thing, for more like strength, stamina, endurance for the adrenals, for building the adrenals. So a good general rule of thumb, just to kind of summarize for adrenal health, is tell people to try to kind of get off the false stimulants, the energy drinks, the coffee, the sugar, get outside, get in the sun, get some minerals like some electrolyte minerals, some sea salt in your water, and take a good herbal formula. Now, if they can add royal jelly to their diet, obviously that's going to help. If they just want more energy, give them the adrenal fatigue fighter. If they want to build and strengthen their body over time because they're an athlete, make sure they're doing the minerals and go to the Chinese tonic herbs. Go to the deer antlers, go to the Romania, go to the rhodiolas, go to a good blend of those herbs. If there's come in and it's just stress, anxious, panic attacks, go for the anxiety-free and the holy basil. Does that kind of give you a nice little summary? Okay, so what questions do you have about kind of the adrenal section, stress, anxiety, that area?
Are the adrenals and the thyroid, are they usually quite connected? Like if you have an adrenal problem, you most likely have a thyroid issue as well.
Yes, so she said, are the adrenals and thyroid connected? If you have an adrenal issue, could it cause a thyroid issue, vice versa? Absolutely. I explained the endocrine system, which is your glandular system, as like a symphony. Okay, you can have the most awesome symphony on the planet and play beautiful music, but if your saxophone player is sick and he's coughing and he's not making beautiful saxophone music, how does the symphony sound? Even if everybody else is playing perfectly. And it's the same thing with the glandular system. When the adrenals are off, it starts to throw the thyroid off, it can start to throw the pituitary off, it can start to throw all the different parts of the glandular system off. It's hard to know like what came first, the chicken or the egg, like did the adrenal issues cause thyroid issues or thyroid issues cause adrenal issues? I don't know. I default a lot to the adrenals. I'd say the medical community defaults a lot to the thyroid. They don't really recognize much adrenal related unless people have Cushing's disease or Addison's disease or some disease related to the adrenals. But I'm telling you, people have adrenal fatigue just because of the standard American lifestyle. People are stressed, they're living on coffee, they're living on stimulants. So the adrenals is huge. So they're both very important, but yes, I tend to focus on the adrenals first when it comes to fatigue. Now if people come in and they know their blood work's off and they got thyroid stuff going on, the thyroid stuff can help a lot. But in general with fatigue, I usually default to the adrenals. It's not like the master control switch for the glandular system because those glands are in the brain, the pineal, the hypothalamus, the pituitary. But the adrenals is the main one because it's your decision making. It's your fight or flight. It's your, is this a dangerous situation or is this like not really a big deal? It's tied to focus, concentration, and energy. It's your vitality and your life force, your energy throughout the day. In Chinese medicine, they call it your Jing. It's all about your Jing, your Jing, your Jing. It's your life force. In Chinese, that's what they call it. And so I think the adrenals, just for the average person walking through our door who needs help with their glandular system, I think the adrenals trumps everything. That's just my personal opinion from my experience in seeing people get helped with stress, anxiety, fatigue, and, all those types of issues. The adrenal area seems to help people the most. Not that it's not important to address thyroid and some other things, but I think adrenals is one of the main areas to focus on. Does that help?
Mm-hmm. If they're not sleeping very well too, like say someone comes in and they're like, I'm not sleeping very well, but I don't have any energy. Would you be like, here's the sleep section, or would you go to the adrenals? Because usually that's what I'm thinking. Oh, but you're fatigued, you can't get any energy, but you're not sleeping.
Right.
Could that be affected as well?
Yeah, so she asked about sleep related to the adrenals. If they're not sleeping, if they're not sleeping because of stress and anxiety, and definitely go to something related to stress in the adrenal section. But if they're not just sleeping in general, and because they're tired, because they're not sleeping, they're tired in the morning.
Yeah.
So you want to help them sleep. So I would definitely go to the sleep section. I always default to minerals first with sleep. I always default to magnesium foot soaks, the calm in the water before bed, because that helps 4 out of 5 times. So that's a good place to start.
So just
So-
kind of find out why are you fatigued.
Yeah, find out why people are fatigued. I always ask them, are you okay in the morning, but you crash in the afternoon? Common with adrenals. If people are pretty good during the day, or I'm sorry, if people are pretty tired during the day, and at night they're like, "Brrr, I can clean the whole house, that's actually usually, that can be thyroid or adrenals, but it's usually thyroid. That's my wife. She's like, she turns on at 8 o'clock. I turn off at 8 o'clock. I wake up at 4 a.m. and I turn off by 8. Jen wakes up at 8. And a lot of times that's thyroid stuff because she's dealt with some thyroid stuff. So that person might need some support during the day because they're fatigued, but at night might need, unless they want to clean the whole house, that's fine. They get a lot of stuff done, but they might need some calming, relaxing stuff at night. The holy basils, the lemon balms, maybe some thyroid support, because a lot of times that'll cause that overactivity at night. Any other questions? Okay.
Talk about the overuse of steroids and how that affects the adrenals.
No, I didn't talk about steroids. We talked a little bit about athletic function. You know, you think about people using steroids, steroid creams, the corticosteroids, all those topical steroids that people are using. What it's doing, it's putting on the body and in the body, something that the adrenals should be doing on their own, but it's putting anywhere from 5 up to as much as 500 times the amount that the body would ever do on its own. So what it does is it, over time, weakens and destroys the adrenal glands. I've seen people who have been on steroids and steroid creams for so long that they actually have developed diseases related to the adrenals, like Cushing's and Addison's. When you see somebody whose adrenals are collapsed, it's sad. They cannot function. They cannot function as a human being. And actually, they get to the point where their adrenals are so tired. This is another symptom. Their adrenals are so tired that caffeine, instead of giving them energy, they're hypersensitive to caffeine. It makes them anxious. It sends their heartbeat 100 miles an hour. That's when their adrenals are so overstimulated that even things that would provide energy, like natural caffeine, causes them to be hypersensitive. So that's something to watch out for. But I have seen people develop adrenal-related diseases from doing the steroids, especially these children. These children have eczema and they're giving them steroids. You know, that's not addressing anything. That's collapsing their adrenal glands, collapsing their immune system. Steroids really, really weaken and damage the immune system because adrenals are very important for the immune system as well. Remember I mentioned the vitamin C.
And that's what
So-
all inhalers are all.
Yeah, all those steroid inhalers, all those for asthma. Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing inhalers for a long time and they're having these adrenal type symptoms that might be connected to the long-term.
So if people are doing internal steroids or topical steroids, the first thing you want to do is replace that. So topical steroids, you want to give them a cream that would serve the same function that's not a steroid. And so they don't need the steroid at all in the first place, is you want to take out the thing that's causing the inflammatory response in their body. It's probably a food or some kind of dysfunction in their body. So you want to look at their diet. You want to get them off the steroids. If it's asthma, you want to do things for their lungs. We talked about over in the asthma section to open up their lungs, the oxygen to help them breathe so that they don't need the steroid, because that really, really weakens their body over time. All right, good. Oh, good timing.